Okay, we're live. Hello, I'm Caitlin. This is Frugal Nutrition. Welcome to my Thanksgiving party, aka a 2-hour period where I cook a Thanksgiving dinner, essentially. I started 1 minute early because I wanted to make sure my camera worked, but we are good to go. So we are going to dive right in because I have to cook the bird, which is going to take almost the whole 2 hours. So we're going to just dive right in. To let you know what's going on is I've got a deep casserole dish, and I just put some carrots, onions, and then some sprigs, these amazing fresh sprigs of thyme and rosemary down here, and we're going to place 2 chickens on top. So for anyone who is waiting to find out if we could find turkey here, the answer is no. I found, Zach found someone who does breed turkeys, and they will be delivering to Tallinn, where we live, and for the expat community, but they only deliver actual Thanksgiving week, which is next week, so that is not going to work. Okay, so we're doing 2 chickens. This meal is meant to serve 8, so we're actually doing 2 chickens, and I'm going to grab them. I already got one prepped and ready to go. It just needs a little bit of seasoning on top, but we are going to get the other one ready so I can show you how to do that. I've also got the oven preheated to 350, and that's 350 fan, so that's like a 350 convection, and I meant to look up exactly what that would mean when you don't have a convection oven. Zach can check for me right now. Zach is also here. He can say hi whenever he wants. He's, of course, helping me. So I did have to do a good amount of prep ahead of time because in a live, as much as I wanted to say 2 hours start to finish, everything that you had to do, I realized it just wasn't feasible simply because of all of the space issues and multiple factors. So 1 chicken is pretty much ready. And this here is a compound butter. So I softened butter to room temperature, and then I minced up some of that fresh thyme, fresh rosemary, and a couple of cloves of garlic. And then you kind of mix it all together. It essentially becomes a compound butter. What you would do with this is you could put it in some saran wrap or parchment paper and roll it into a log, and then you can serve it like regular butter. You can season and flavor butter with all kinds of different things like this. It's great, and this is what I always do when I'm making chicken. And I was talking to a friend recently, and I realized that I've never actually cooked a turkey. This is our second expat Thanksgiving, and for that one, we were in Japan, and we went to the Costco in Tokyo and bought rotisserie chickens. So I didn't even have an oven there. So this is a step up. Maybe one day I'll cook a turkey, who knows?
325.
325?
25.
Okay, so it would be 25 degrees under if you were doing this in a regular oven. And usually it is good to cook on a little bit of a lower temp, like 325 when you're kind of slow cooking something like this so that the meat is really, really tender and fall off the bone. But we are in a time crunch, and I tested this at 350, so that's what we're going with. So to start, I've just got the chicken here. Now, food safety, I'm making sure that chicken stuff is not touching anything else, especially nowhere near something that's not going to be cooked. So salad ingredients, dessert, all that's away. So first thing, I'm actually going to snip this part of the skin. Let me show you from here. This is the breast side up, and I'm just going to go in there and snip that part of the skin. It doesn't need to be perfect, and you can also, use both hands, you can also kind of get your fingers in there. You don't want to rip the top part of the skin. You're just kind of getting this part, I don't know what it's called, that's connected to the meat itself off so that we can stuff it with that delicious butter that we made.
Dermis.
Dermis?
Yeah.
One of the dermises?
Dermi.
Yeah, something like that. This is the way that I prefer to do this. I just think it helps keep the breast really moist. I know there are other options, but we're learning the way I do it. And okay, so you see that's kind of loose, and yeah, you got to get all up in there. It's kind of weird. And this is the only part that's really going to be getting this butter. So you're just kind of smushing that in as much as you can. And again, this is all contaminated now, which is why you kind of want to make sure you measure that stuff out ahead of time. And there we go. Just kind of smush that in as much as you can, which is, I know, a little bit of a weird thing. And all right, that is looking good. This one is already kind of smushed in there. And you do want to get it smushed kind of all around right away, because if your chicken came, or your turkey, I guess, came straight from the fridge and it's cold, it will re-harden that butter. So you want to kind of get it where you want it ahead of time, so that if it hardens where you want it to be. This one, Zach already put salt and pepper on the bottom for me. And so I'm going to ask him to come do the same for this one. And then I'll flip it over. In 1 second, Zach. Let me get this stuff out of the way. Our two pretty little birds. All right. Yeah, this one needs salt and pepper on the bottom. And that compound butter, I did put salt in there as well. Most of the butter here in Estonia comes unsalted, so it's kind of a bummer for us, but I guess it's better than all of it coming salted. Right? It's better to have it all unsalted. It's easier. And then the stuff on the bottom, I did not add any seasoning to that. You definitely can, but I decided not to, because usually kind of just all of the flavor, all the extra butter, all the chicken fat will seep down. So it'll be plenty flavored. And then just to recap, I did 1 kilogram, which is 2 pounds of carrots. I have tri-colored carrots, got several sprigs of thyme and rosemary fresh. And then I just got 3 onions that I cut in half. Now, I haven't done it exactly this way. Usually I cut the onions smaller, but the last time I made it, which was using this oven, the size of onions that I usually quarter them or cut them into 6, they burned. So everything's a little bigger than I would usually do it for that purpose. Okay, so I am going to ask Zach to season the top of this with that yellow seasoning. You can show it to the camera. I was looking for onion powder. So on the inside, I've got all the herbs. I've got garlic inside. And on the outside, I really like to do salt, pepper, and onion powder. Couldn't find any plain onion powder. The closest I could find was this allium blend that has turmeric, onion, and I think garlic in it. So that is what we're going for. This chicken skin I broke a little bit, so I'm gonna try to cover that up. I'm gonna wash my hands. Zach, can you add the yellow allium powder, sprinkle it over the whole thing, please? Thank you. And then that also doesn't have pepper in it. I hope that you can hear me. That also doesn't have any pepper in it, so we're going to add pepper as well.
No pepper in here.
No pepper.
We need pepper.
Do you know why we need pepper? So, of course, pepper is flavorful, but also the compound that is anti-inflammatory, which is in turmeric, is further activated and made more bioavailable by a compound in pepper. So whenever there's turmeric, I'm just always going to add pepper to make sure that we get as much good stuff as we can. All right, that looks good to me.
I knew that.
Well,
I thought you were talking about something else.
I thought you did know that, yeah. Okay. That's our tray, and can you just pull that open for me? This is how small my oven is. I don't know if you can tell. It's really small. Is this going to fit all the way on the top? No. Okay. Close it. Thank you. So usually you don't normally cook a bird like that all the way close to the top, but my oven is so small, I found that it was the best way that I was going to be able to cook other things at the same time would be to put them underneath. So we're just going to hope for the best and hope that we don't get burned or too dry on top. Seemed okay when I tested it. Also, I'm a big fan of food safety. I'm going to just take 1 minute to talk about that because nothing got dripped, but making a lot of food and I'm making it for other people. So I'm going to use sort of a restaurant etiquette for the most part. Like if you were in a commercial kitchen, and you definitely need to use sanitizer or something to clean off any surfaces like that. So that's what I'm doing. And you do you. I'm not going to judge you. You don't do that. Okay. What is our next recipe? Zach's going to tell me. I have a list. I have these great little, they're like cleaning towels, I guess.
Stuffing.
Great.
Stuffing.
Thank you. I have these great little cleaning towels that are actually, well, let's see, you can see better like this. That are great for putting underneath your cutting board and keeping it a little more stable. Now, this is a wonky sort of platform anyway. It keeps the cutting board from sliding around. So, can you put this over there for me? So that's what I've got going on there. And Zach, that full tray of stuff is stuffing. So I tried to organize things so that Zach could bring them to me because I don't have enough room. Thank you very much. Perfect. Okay, so my favorite way to make stuffing is actually sausage stuffing. We made an AIP stuffing one year. I think that might have been 2020. Do you remember when that was?
Must have not been a good stuffing.
It was.
I don't remember.
It was good. Okay. But what I really liked about that AIP stuffing, even though I'm going to use some gluten-free bread here, was that it used a lot of root vegetables, and I thought that I really liked that, I guess. So we're going to add some root vegetables to the stuffing today. We're using turnip. I've made it with rutabaga twice, but then there was no rutabaga at the store this week, so we've got turnip. So we're going to start the process. I just turned on the pan over here, which is where I'm going to cook the pork and make a little bit of a homemade stuffing. Let me just make sure. Homemade sausage. So I've got the seasonings mixed here for the pork, and I accidentally doubled it. I'm only using half a pound of sausage, but I put enough spices in here for a full pound. So we'll see. I might just use it for the stuffing, but it is Italian seasoning, oregano, sage, basil, thyme, and fennel. So it's the same blend that's in the herb sausage and sweet potato soup. I think that's what it's called on my blog, just with the addition of fennel. So while the pan is heating up, I'm going to get the veggies ready. And first up is turnip. Zach, do you like turnip?
I don't know. I don't think about it much.
Yeah, I don't know if you like it either.
I'm gonna say neutral.
Yeah, that's probably
Turnip
good.
neutral.
So turnip and rutabaga are actually not the same vegetable. A lot of people think they are. I wondered for a while if they were the same, but they are actually not. So turnip is in the cruciferous family, which includes things like broccoli, kale, cabbage. And if you've ever tried to microwave turnip, it'll smell like cauliflower, so you'll know it's in that family. Also, I'm doing a really weird peel job here, so sorry about that awkwardness. But and then rutabaga is not in the cruciferous family, but it is actually low in fiber and therefore a low FODMAP vegetable. So
Do they taste the same?
They taste pretty similar. I think a rutabaga is a little sweeter and a little starchier.
Like cousins,
Sure.
brothers.
I mean,
cousins,
they're not in the same family. So
stepsisters.
Stepsisters, I think.
They're the same dad.
Yeah, that's what it is. Okay, I'm only gonna use half of this because I found out recently that one of our guests is a vegetarian.
Shout out Agnes.
So I don't know her. It's Zach's friend's partner, so I didn't know that ahead of time. But so that's why I'm gonna do vegetarian stuffing tomorrow. Okay, so we are just gonna cube this, and other things that work well here include parsnip and carrots. Those are really nice. I also couldn't find parsnips, and we have all those roasted carrots going in there, so I didn't want to do another carrot dish. And do we have any questions down there that I need to address? Okay, great. All right, so to talk about this stuffing. Now, if you are looking up recipes, you'll see some people make stuffing in the bird, out of the bird. Some people make it more like a bread pudding, which is really sort of custard based, so they're going to use a lot of eggs there. I'm just using some chicken broth and some butter, and then I'm using the turnip and the celery. This is all my dried bread, and essentially we don't have the best access to gluten-free products here, but they do okay. And so these gluten-free buns we kind of like. So this is what I chose to use, and it took a little bit of time to get them because they're not at a nearby grocery store. So that's why I was able to do everything ahead. I basically just tore these up. So I'll show you what I do here. It's really easy. You can cut it into cubes, which I think is the standard way to do it. But I kind of like this craggly way, which just makes it have more texture. And that is actually how I first had kind of a fancy stuffing ever. And so I really like that if I can do it that way. But essentially, it's getting hot. Okay, thanks. So essentially that I feel like it gives it, well, like I said, more texture, but also keeps it a little bit crunchier on top. And then once I broke that all apart, I dried it out in the oven overnight. You don't 100% have to do that, but like I said, I kind of like that crunchiness, so I prefer to do that. Do you mind using this butter for me so we can melt it? Okay, so we're gonna melt that butter in the microwave, and I'm going to put this pork in here for our sausage. And just so you know, this is maybe you can't hear me with the microwave. This is a carbon steel pan. It's not great quality, but it's the closest thing that we have to a cast iron right now. So it's great for a lot of things. I feel like the cast iron is a lot better. Also, look at how fun this is that you don't need anything to open this. It just opens like that. It's like a perfect little package. No, all right, I gotta wash my hands, so bear with me. Let me check it. A little bit more. Okay. So you can mix this ahead of time. If you really want a sausage texture, it does make a huge difference if you actually put the meat in a bowl and kind of massage it with your hand and all the seasoning. It actually makes it tougher, which is what you want for a sausage texture. I knew that because I took one sausage making class like 7 years ago and then looked it up online afterwards. But that I found does really make a difference. Thank you. I don't think I could do this without Zach's help. So for anybody out there who tries to do this stuff on your own, kudos to you. Thanks. All right, so I put about half of this in, and I'm gonna add a little extra salt, and we're gonna let this brown. And I'm not as worried about the sausage texture or the flavor permeating as much as I would for other dishes because this is going in the stuffing and it's all gonna cook in the oven for like 40 minutes. Okay. All right, I'm going to cut up some vegetables so that I think might be a good time to answer some of the questions that I got from Instagram. And Zach is going to read them to me.
Question number 1. What are you doing for Thanksgiving?
Oh, yeah, that was the first question that came through. That was from Arlo. Hello, Arlo, my friend's son.
Arlo said this.
Yeah. So what are we doing for Thanksgiving? I mean, we have Friendsgiving tomorrow. I feel like that's our answer. So it's sort of early morning for probably most of you all, but we are in Tallinn, Estonia, which I can also take a minute to talk about. And so we are 7 hours ahead. It's 7 p.m. here. By the time we finish, it'll be like 9 p.m. So we are having all of this food as leftovers tomorrow for a Friendsgiving with our expat friends. And then next Thursday, I don't have to work, but Zach has school because he goes to an Estonian school and they don't care about American holiday traditions, obviously. And then just in case anyone is new here or regardless, I can always share what we're doing here. So for about 6 years, Zach and I lived in Baltimore. And then he found this program that he got really interested in here in Tallinn, Estonia. And we decided to take the leap and we moved here earlier this year. He started school in August and he's in an interaction design program, which everyone asks me what that is. And usually I say, ask Zach. And I think that's it. Anything to add to that?
Nope.
We'll be here for 2 years. That's why we're here. Any other? Yeah, let's do another question.
Sure. Are sweet potatoes actually healthier than white potatoes?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. So I think on one hand, you always have to kind of define what healthier means. So because what's healthier for one person is not healthier for someone else, and you have to give context, etc. So we're not going to get into all of that, but generally speaking, sweet potatoes are richer in most micronutrients. Well, so that's not exactly correct. What I mean to say is if you were to look at all of the micronutrients and compare them in a sweet potato versus a white potato, you would have a higher abundance of micronutrients in a sweet potato, including carotenoids, which are orange. And so one could argue that they are more nutritious. They have higher nutrient density, but the potato itself is a really good source of potassium, as well as a few other nutrients, but what was I going to say? What I was going to say is it is higher in calories. So if you need more calories, I know a lot of Americans are not looking for that, but from that sort of healthy standpoint, a potato might be a better choice than a sweet potato. So no, neither one is necessarily healthier. They just bring different things to the table.
Which one tastes better?
Regular white potato.
Which one do you like better?
Regular white potato.
You love sweet potatoes.
Well, yeah, I get kind of sick of them though, so I will eat a sweet potato. The best potato is the Japanese sweet potato though. So technically, the one that's purple on the outside and yellow on the inside. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think I like the purple ones. Purple on the inside.
Oh, purple all the way through?
It's fun.
Yeah, those are really fun. I haven't seen them here. Or Japanese sweet potatoes. Here, all I've seen is like maybe 4 or 5 different types of potatoes and then just orange sweet potatoes.
You want another one or you want to save some?
Yeah, let's do one more. We've got
Okay.
a little.
It's like a two-parter. We're
Okay.
the same title. SIBO tips for Thanksgiving?
Ooh.
Help me not be bloated.
Okay, that might be too long of an answer to do right at this moment, but what I will say is if you can, no, we're gonna have to save that one. SIBO tips for Thanksgiving would definitely just be to bring some dishes that you know you can tolerate.
Alka-Seltzer.
Alka-Seltzer is the opposite of what's gonna help you. Usually you need more stomach acid.
Break your meal into 3 parts.
Maybe, it's possible. Any other ideas, suggestions?
Only eat turkey.
That may help, possibly. I mean, I think realistically, trying to bring at least one side yourself kind of depends on what the situation is, how tied you are to Thanksgiving food, who's serving you. I think you can also do a lot of things to support your digestion. I really like enzymes for a lot of things, but in this situation, I feel like enzymes are really helpful because they will help you break down the foods that you are otherwise not really tolerating. So I think my biggest tips would include also enzymes. I use the FODMate enzymes. There's FODMate and there's FODzyme. So, and either of those would be a good option. Okay, I think we are good on the sausage. Turn this off. All right, so here is the homemade sort of sausage situation. And something that I'm really bad about doing when I do these kinds of lives is I forget to taste. I did a live cooking session for my birthday in June, and I didn't taste any of the food or any of the dishes because I was just talking and I don't know, trying not to be nervous. And so I'm going to try to remember to taste everything, especially since we're serving this food to other people. So it needs to taste good. Okay, so the herbs are really good, super, super good, but it's a little on the salty side. So that just tells me I don't need to add too much salt to the rest of this. Okay, so let's try and mix this in. Hot. This is very hot. It's hot on my hands. See, you can't do that with a cast iron. That's one nice thing, thank you, about the carbon steel.
No, you didn't.
I don't need it now, but I appreciate you nonetheless. Okay, so, and I did have to buy some of these aluminum things because we don't have enough dishware. Also, this was supposed to be for 8 people. So my original plan was to make like 2 trays worth of this anyway, but I think we're up to 11 now.
What?
I think we're up to 11. Well, I know, but whatever, it's Thanksgiving. You should always just have more people than you think. That's always good. So I'm just gonna add a little bit of this seasoning blend. It has a little salt in it, but not too much, so not too worried about it. Then butter. And maybe, I don't know, we'll see how much of that broth. So this is about half a stick of butter. When I heat this up tomorrow, I will put some butter on top also and heat it up in the stove, in the oven. So just so you know, there will be more butter. Smells really good. Now, like I said, I prefer slightly, oh yeah, we're gonna use all of this drier stuffing, so real stuffing, not a bread pudding stuffing. But you can always do more than this or do whatever you want. But it's a lot of people will mix the bread with the wet ingredients and let it soak. That's sort of the custard method. If you think of like a French toast, a traditional French toast, you would soak that to create more of a custard consistency. I think that's also good. I don't know, but this is how I have been doing it.
Cool.
Okay, how long does this go in?
30 to 40 minutes?
30 to 40 minutes, yes.
I don't know if that's
This is like a
the whole
little
entire time or
soup.
just the cook time.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm just gonna put this underneath.
Didn't ask you to answer that.
Yeah, it's the cook time. Okay, so I'll just set this for about 35 minutes. Oh, also, I forgot. I have this great thermometer that I bought when I broke our other one, and I'll put it in later, but you can put it in the bird, in the chicken leg, and leave it out so you can see what the temperature is while it's in there. So we will use that momentarily. Okay, so this stuff will be for the backup, the second stuffing that I will make tomorrow. Zach, what's next on our list? Mashed potatoes, I think?
Yeah.
All right. So, mashed potatoes are going in this rice cooker, and I realized that I actually have to make it in 2 batches. So the main things that I'm gonna do, just gonna fill this with water and salt. I'm just gonna put it in my rice cooker because I have a rice cooker. Usually I try to do things in rice cooker, slow cooker, lots of options because I feel like I have a pretty oven heavy Thanksgiving menu. So I think using this really helps kind of generally to spread things out, but also we don't have a lot of room on our stove and we only have 3 burners. So I'm just gonna fill this with water and let that cook. I did test this, works great. Rice cooker, it's genius. Rice cookers are not standard here. I have not seen or heard of anyone else who has a rice cooker, but I found it at a used electronics store.
Esther has one.
Oh, does she? Oh, that makes me
She
happy.
brought it from home.
Oh, she brought it. Yeah, she's from Hong Kong, so she brought hers. But it's so great, and we haven't had one since we lived in Japan, which I also bought it used there. This is not a real rice cooker. This is called a Chef-O-Matic. So yeah, I looked it up. It was like sold here in Scandinavia. One of those like QVC things. It's its own weird brand, but it functions as a rice cooker. I've got rice, quinoa, buckwheat, potatoes. So great. The second bit that we're gonna do for the potatoes is roasted garlic. So I'm going to roast this whole head of garlic, and we're gonna squeeze it out into the mashed potatoes when it's time to mash them. Zach, can you take this back away, please? Thank you. Hold on to this. And okay, so I need a little bit of foil. And pretty simple to roast a whole head of garlic. Just gonna kind of slice the top of it off. You want all of the cloves to be somewhat exposed. So this one I'm gonna just slice a little bit off because it's not exposed. And don't worry about the paper. Garlic paper is actually totally edible anyway, so you don't have to throw it away.
Did not know that.
It's like, papery and nobody wants it, but it's fine to eat. I'm also saving some scraps for when we make broth. And gotta save the flavor, So I'm just going to make a little pouch with the foil. There we go. It's gigantic. And put a little olive oil on top. And then, oh shoot, I forget how long I need to cook this for. Can you check for me, Zach? I've actually made this without any olive oil before, and it also works out fine.
There's just a question mark where the time should be.
Okay. Well, how long do you cook roasted garlic? It's a much bigger piece of oil than we need. All right. We're going to toss that in the oven. Oops. My guess is 30 minutes?
Yeah, 30 to 40.
Perfect.
30 to 40.
Okay.
Just
Now,
do it at 30. Then you can check it.
okay, we're going to move on to dessert, right? Is that what's next? Or is there something else next?
Apple crisp.
Apple crisp, is that 4?
Yep.
Okay. So apple crisp, the nice thing about this dessert is that it's not fussy. So not only is it easy to bring together, it is also not going to be weird if it sits. It can be piping hot or room temperature. It's pretty flexible. You can always heat it up right before you serve it in the oven or the microwave. Pretty good in that area. Just gonna give this board a little wipe so we can get the apples ready to go. Zach, can you please help me by bringing all of those apples over?
By what?
By bringing the apples over?
This one or that?
Both of them. Thank you. So I started chopping these because I didn't know how long it's going to take. So even though, like you said, I really wanted this to be all happening live, I got nervous that I wasn't going to have enough space, and also the sizes of everything increased, like I said, from 8 to 11. So I was like, this is an extra pound of apples, and etc. If you were to make this SIBO friendly, assuming that you're not tolerating a lot of fiber while you're figuring out your SIBO treatment, you could choose berries instead of apples. So you could make your own dessert with something like so this is an apple crisp. You could do a berry crisp. And they have those ones that like just cut the apples at the same time.
Just have one.
Yeah?
I love that.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you have it when you were a bachelor?
Yeah.
Sounds like
You saw it
something
then.
you have, yeah. I have never owned one of those. I've used them before.
They're pretty sweet.
I feel like I tried to use one time on a Honeycrisp apple, and it was too big, and then I got mad about it and was like, this is a stupid, useless tool. But you know me and single-use appliances in the kitchen.
Yeah, but you could use
Not
it
my
for
favorite.
a pear.
You could use it for a pear.
Yeah.
This is true. This very, very good point. I can't argue with that.
Yeah.
Could probably use it for a potato
Or a very,
or an onion.
a very unripe plum, perhaps.
Gross. Why would you be cutting up an unripe plum,
Oh no, yeah, you can eat them.
senor?
Yeah, that's the wrong fruit.
And also, it has a pit in there. I don't know if it'll work.
Right. Yeah, that's a bad example.
Not the best example, but you know,
So apple and pear.
its versatility has no bounds. So,
There's balance. Apple and pear.
all right. So, I have some extra apples in the fridge. I wasn't sure if I was going to need them or not, so I might have to cut up more. But I'm glad that I cut some of these ahead. Let's go back to the SIBO and bloating question. So, some other things, if you're preparing your own Thanksgiving meal, you could certainly just reduce the amount of trigger foods that are present. You should also, if you're working with someone, have an idea of what you tolerate and serving sizes that you tolerate. And generally, you know, can you do a little bit of garlic powder? Do you need to have zero garlic, etc.? One of my friends actually attended a fully low FODMAP Thanksgiving dinner because her daughter was not tolerating any FODMAPs, and they prepared it without any onions or garlic or high FODMAP foods at all. And they said that it was easy and it tasted good. So, and then those are just kind of the food replacement things. Of course, there are things you could do to make your food more digestible. So one of those things would be like if you are using onions, you could soak them. I talk about this a lot. If you soak onions, it definitely makes them more digestible for all of us, and especially if you're going to be using them raw, but even if you're using them cooked. So you could always cut up your onions, slice them, mince them, whatever you're planning on doing, and then soak them for about 10 minutes just in regular cold water. You can do it in hot water or in vinegar. And in terms of kind of helping with bloating, I think the main two things that cause a lot of bloating with Thanksgiving is that we eat more, and we eat more of foods that we don't usually eat. So if you feel like you have some sort of a digestive issue, then definitely seek someone out so that, you can be more flexible with your diet and fix whatever underlying issue could be going on. If you find that, you have several foods that you're not tolerating, it's a really good idea to work with someone to kind of get those foods back in, or at least fix the underlying issue. But generally speaking, there are a few things that we can do to help with our digestion. The first is activating the cephalic stage of digestion, which is our senses. So if you maybe have heard this before, we eat with our eyes. That's actually true. Our sensory experience is the first stage of digestion. So when you see or smell, Cinnabon in the airport, for example, your body actually starts to prepare digestive enzymes to help you break down that food. So it's anticipating that food is coming. So ensuring that you're, smelling the food, seeing the food, spending a little bit of time ready to experience the food can help. I think we are sometimes good about that at Thanksgiving. So if you bring the bird out and carve it and the whole house smells like rosemary, I think that can be helpful. But really just making sure that you're sort of smelling and seeing your food. Slowing down and chewing your food is huge. We talk a lot about eating hygiene in my practice, and that just means the way that you approach your meals and interact with the food. And that includes chewing. Sometimes we are eating quickly, we're on the go, we're stressed. That's, whether you have digestive issues or not, that's not good for your digestion. So if you want to make sure that your stomach acid is activated and your digestive enzymes are functioning, if you can slow down, maybe take some deep breaths, maybe you have a gratitude practice or a spiritual practice, or what do you say before you eat? Grace? Maybe you say grace.
Itadakimasu.
Itadakimasu, yeah. That's nice. But you can kind of try to incorporate that sort of slowing down practice at mealtime, and that can make a big difference and actually support